Tone color, or timbre, is the third property that we're going to talk about in relationship to how music differs from regular sounds. These two words mean the very same thing. They are both defined as the quality of sound that distinguishes it from other sounds. In other words, tone color, or timbre, is about the quality of what you're hearing. So far we've talked about highness or lowness. We've talked about loudness versus softness. In this case, we're talking about something much more personal. The tone color is the reaction that we have, basically, to the sounds that we hear. So if you hear a melody produced by a piano, you're going to feel certain emotions. You're going to use certain words, certain adjectives to describe that sound. Those adjectives, like mellow, joyful, or scary, dark, bright, intense, those are words that describe the tone color of the sound you're hearing. Now, tone color can also change throughout a piece of music. That change in tone color or timbre creates variety and contrast in a piece of music. Think about your favorite song, whatever that may be. Perhaps it's a pop song sung by a very famous artist. Think about if instead of someone singing that song, someone played it on a banjo, or someone digitalized the song and entirely did it like a DJ. It would sound very different, and that difference would create contrast from the original. You would describe all those different versions of your favorite song with different adjectives, with different emotional words, and those words are what would describe the quality of the sound, or in other words, the tone colors. Tone color allows composers to build continuity into a piece of music, to highlight a particular melody, and to create emotional impact. What that means is that someone who is writing a piece of music can create a piece of music based off of one short pattern of tones. They can then repeat that series of tones played by different instruments, sung by different voices, played at different dynamics, using crescendos, diminuendos, using different pitches. And while keeping the pattern the same, they are changing the tone color by changing these certain aspects of the music. Now it's time for listening example 3. This listening example is a little different from what you've heard so far. This is a piece of the blues, called the Sea Jam Blues from 1942. The recording up on the website is a YouTube link to a 78 RPM record recording, so it's going to sound a bit like there's a little bit of gravel playing, because it's an old recording. For those of you who have never experienced record recordings before, it might be a little strange to listen to, but don't let it stand in your way. It's a great recording, and if you can get past the scratchiness of the sound, you can realize that you're listening to an original recording from 1942. Pretty crazy. Duke Ellington and his famous orchestra are a fabulous jazz band who played lots of jazz tunes and blues tunes throughout the 20th century. Feel free to go look him up, or read in your book on page 8 about the piece just a little bit. Here are some questions to think about. What are some of the different tone colors that you hear? Describe them. Use emotional adjectives to describe the sounds you're hearing. This piece has one short melody, one short pattern that's used over and over again. Can you hear it played over and over again? What different instruments is he using? We're going to talk more about instruments in the next chapters, so you'll have more vocabulary at that point. But if you know the instruments, can you identify them? If you can't identify the instruments, can you identify the different tone colors that are produced? Again, think back to our lectures on dynamics and pitch. What can you hear in this example that relate to those ideas? Are there any pitch changes or dynamic changes? How does the music make you feel? After you've listened to listening example 3, please proceed on to chapter 2 and the short videos included in that content folder.